You are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 124. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where I show you how life with less alcohol is more fun than you think. I work with high achievers who struggle to drink a glass of wine without it turning into 2 bottles. I'm the one they call when they want to take it or leave it. So if you want to change your relationship with alcohol that doesn't involve counting days sober, you're in the right place. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Episode 124, I can barely believe it. It's funny, as I was recording the intro piece where I give the number for the podcast today, it suddenly plopped into my mind that actually the number 24 is one of my favourite numbers. Yes, I am one of those people who has favourite numbers, and 24 is one of them. In fact, whenever we go to a casino, which is not often these days, but I do like a spot of roulette, proper roulette with the croupier there. I like to imagine I'm in a James Bond film, and yes, 24 is one of the numbers that I play on. So good. All right, let's get on with the show, shall we? We're not here to talk about roulette. Today we are talking about a fun one. It's diet mentality. Who doesn't love a diet, huh? So there are many parallels to drinking less and to weight loss. In fact, I just sent out an email to my list, and if you are not on my email list, you do need to get on it so you receive inspiration delivered straight into your inbox. Go to 90dayslater.co/list to sign up. That's where you sign up there. But this latest email I wrote was about how I lost 24 pounds. That's 11 kilos in normal money, right? Alongside learning to drink less, right? So my goal was to drink less. My goal was to change my relationship with alcohol, was not to lose weight, but I ended up losing a ton of weight too. I wasn't really concerned with the weight, not really. Yes, I was a little heavier after I'd had the children about a decade or so earlier, but it had never really been a compelling issue to solve. But then what happened is when I started to drink less, I naturally removed, right, all the empty calories, and the weight started falling off. This was also helped by the fact that when I used to drink, I got my snacking head on. And when I don't drink, I just don't seem to want to lay into the wasabi nuts or the flaky cheese and spinach breadsticks. Yes, I admit it. Those things that I used to devour, right, by the box full with a couple of glasses of wine. And that was even before I started to cook the dinner. So no wonder I was packing it on a little bit, but I digress. Now, I'm starting here by talking about food here is because I often get asked whether the methods I teach to change a relationship with alcohol are transferable to other areas of your life where you're overdoing things, whether it's over shopping, over strolling on your phone, or indeed overeating. And the answer is yes, they are. And as I want to talk about diet mentality today with drinking, I thought I'd start by talking about food and overeating because it's one that we are all very familiar with. It's a topic we're familiar with, and it's an easy way to explain the message. So first, I'd like to do a little exercise with you. I'd like you to follow along with this, especially if you know you want to lose a little bit of weight, or even if you're where I was, where it wasn't really this big thing, but it'd be kind of nice to slim down a little bit. Okay, so if you think about how you might go about losing weight, what's the word that springs to mind? That was a dramatic pause there, but hopefully you will have seen the clue in the title of this podcast. Yes, it's the word diet. You need to go on a diet. That's what we say, right? I need to lose a little bit of weight. I need to go on a diet. I want to lose a bit for holiday. My clothes are getting a bit tight. I need to go on a bit of a diet. Now, when you think of going on a diet, which is essentially just some form of restricting your food intake, how do you feel? Now, I want you to speak that word out loud. And if your answer to this question is something like awful or ugh, or no way, that sort of thing, I still want you to put it into a word. How does it feel? Maybe it feels deprived, depleted. Maybe you feel excited at the idea. Who knows? Right? I want you to look at what that word is and speak it out loud. Now, for me, typically, whenever in my life I've thought about going on a diet, what comes up for me is feeling bored, restricted, or denied, right? You want the biscuit? Denied. Move along. Now, this is interesting. I find this actually fascinating since I've found coaching. And by the way, I don't do diets anymore because I don't need to with the coaching tools that I have. But it is interesting because there are gazillions of diets out there. I've even tried in the past. I've even tried some of them. I remember the South Beach diet being quite the thing back in the day when we lived in California. And at the time I was actually traveling quite a lot heavily for business, my big corporate job. I remember that even the airlines were getting in on it, right? They used to offer South Beach options on the menu. Or Atkins, I remember that, Atkins options. That was whenever I was lucky enough to travel business class. I mean, I recall that was those were a couple of big diets back at the time. So those were just two, but there are many, many, many of them out there. And you could say that there are all sorts of diets available. And essentially what you do is you get to pick. You get to pick the one that you like the sound of. You get to pick the one that you think would work for your life, right? And yet, at the end of the day, it's still a diet. That's what we tell ourselves. I'm on a diet. Now, something that has been true for me always with a diet is that it is difficult to stay on for long, or even if I do manage to stay on it for quite a while, and even if I do reach my goals, right? So in the past, I've reached my weight goals, I'm going to inevitably at some point say, right, that's it, had enough, coming off the diet, right? And then what happens? Over time, the weight creeps back on because I'm not really focusing on it anymore because I've reached my goal and I've been on a diet and I was so good and now I deserve to live a little. I figure I've done the hard bit and now it's time to feel a bit freer. I've been so good. I deserve it, right? That's something I hear a lot when it comes to drinking, where people tell me when they first talk with me, yeah, I haven't been drinking so much lately. I've been really good. But before long, the absence of any kind of strict or not strict planned diet leads to a carefree and haphazard approach to food and drink. And before long, we're pretty much back to where we were before. That's what typically happens. But, and this is really interesting, I find this fascinating, I also know people who have great success with diets. In fact, I have a good friend who's very trim, always has been, and she always watches what she eats, right? She always has. And I say always, I've known her since we were about 9, right? So since maybe we were teenagers, I've known her to be so. To all intents and purposes, you might think she's on a diet because she really watches what she eats. But she doesn't see it that way. In fact, she's very, very relaxed about it. She's very, very relaxed and focused on the upsides that this way of being offers her. She sees that far more. That's where her mind goes rather than to feeling this is restrictive and not letting her have fun. Talking to her, it's clear that she does have a fairly strict eating protocol, but that's how she likes it. In fact, to her, it's become how she lives. It's how she likes to live. Does she occasionally eat chocolate biscuits? Does she occasionally hanker after a slice of cake? I have asked her this, and the answer is yes. It's just that she doesn't really make much of a big deal about it. She might do that now and then, but most of the time she chooses not to. Now, what is the difference between any of the diets you can go on, you might have been on, or I have been on, and the so-called diet my friend is on? The only difference is what we decide to think about it. So if you like the idea of being on a fairly strict eating plan, if you like the results you're getting, if you like how you feel about yourself, then you're going to run towards it. You're going to want to stick with it. But if you hate the idea of the diet being mapped out for you by somebody else, even if it's a world-renowned nutritionist, if you hate that you just can't eat what you want when you want, even when you know that isn't really what you want because you know it's that kind of behavior that got you to where you are in the first place, if you hate all that, then you're going to be resentful and resistant to the diet. You just are. And I see a hugely strong parallel with drinking. When I initially speak with people on their first call with me, what they want to achieve for themselves, drinking-wise, I'm often asked by them, am I going to have to just stop drinking? Are you going to make me go sober? Right? Is that the first step, that we sort of just stop drinking? They're worried I'm going to order them to abstain. They're worried I'm going to give them all these rules that they hope will help, which at the same time sounds really terrible. Just for the record, no, that's not what happens with me. I do not do that at all. But I think it's telling that that's one of the fears that people come to me with. So if that is one of your fears, I can lay that to rest immediately. On that initial call, instead of me doling out, thou shalt do this, thou shalt do that, which then you might think carries on for the rest of the coaching relationship. No, on the initial call, we're going to talk about where you are and where you want to be. Our first call won't cost you anything. Hoo-hoo, that is good news. It's only going to cost you your time, but it's so valuable to you because on it we talk about all the ways that changing your relationship with alcohol is going to change your life, about everything that's possible for you. And I promise you'll know for sure if this is something you want to do, right? Because that's why I never need to convince people to work with me or not, because I know, I am sure and certain that coaching is the best thing ever. And it's my job to show you what you can also achieve for yourself with coaching. Now, most people I speak with have indeed tried lots of different things, changed their drinking. So again, if that's you, you are not alone. Maybe they've tried going alcohol-free during the week. Maybe they've tried to have just one glass of wine at Sunday lunch and then have to put up with feeling miserable while everyone else polishes off the bottle. No wonder living this kind of life and approaching drinking less like this can feel as though you're on a restrictive calorie diet. And then that goes on and on and on. So of course, if you do that long enough, no wonder people tell me things like, I just want to feel free, Anna. I just want to be able to go out there and have fun, whether I have a drink or not, and feel free. I just want to not live as though I'm waiting to live a little again and have some fun. All right, marked by when it's permissible to drink. So there's all the life stuff. And then there are the signposts that I can live a little bit because that's when I've got a drink on the cards. If this sounds like you, if you have this kind of diet mentality around drinking less, if that's what you've been accustomed to or you've learned and it hasn't been working for you, if the sheer idea of changing how you drink and interact with alcohol in your life brings you out in a kind of negative reaction, if it feels like you're going to need to go on a drink diet, I offer sincerely that for many people, overdrinking is simply a conditioned response that in time has become a habit. It's a conditioned response that the way we have fun is to drink. It's a conditioned response that the way we deal with difficult situations is to drink. It's a conditioned response that the way we deal with stress is to drink. You can basically fill in the blanks, right? It's a conditioned response to deal with XYZ is to drink. But in the same way that the action of drinking is a conditioned response, so is our thinking and so are our feelings about it that are attached to the action of drinking. I'm going to prove it to you. I want you to consider that if you have friends coming over this evening and you have a dinner party planned, and let's say you've picked out the food and everything and you've picked out a wine or two for the table. You have all those plans in place. You've bought everything. You don't plan on overindulging, but you are looking forward to seeing your friends and you're looking forward to having a tipple, to having a glass or two. And then I rock up and I say, you can't have it. No, I will reinforce, as I said earlier, I do never do this. I am saying this for the purpose of this example only. But let's say I or somebody else were to rock up and say, you can't drink that tonight. Not allowed. You're on a diet. No more wine for a month. How are you going to feel? Just think about that. How are you going to feel? I would offer you're going to feel pretty miffed, pretty resistant, pretty angry. And you'll be looking ahead to the dinner party thinking, oh, maybe this isn't going to be as much fun. Maybe your shoulders slump a little. Maybe you're not quite as energetically interested and looking forward to it as you would, right? Maybe you're not so much into the planning. All of that reaction, all of these thoughts, the shoulders slumping, everything, all of that reaction comes from the thoughts in your mind because you're looking ahead to something that hasn't yet happened. You're looking ahead and you're creating a situation in your mind's eye that is less than, right? Before you were going to have this whole fancy dinner and you were going to have this nice wine, you're looking forward to it, and now that you feel like it's been taken away from you and it's going to be less than. You're not looking forward to it so much. You're going to feel constricted and restrained. The only thing that has changed is how you're thinking about it. That is the power of the mind. Now I want to talk about the difference between a diet and a plan. It's very important. One of the things I teach my clients is how to get back control of their drinking, and that they do that through being intentional with what they want for themselves and intentional with their actions, which involves planning the kind of role and interaction they want to have with alcohol in their life and in society, and for them to start basically as they mean to carry on. And this means we begin with the relationship with ourselves and what we want for ourselves. We don't start by talking about the wine. We start by talking about what we want for ourselves in our lives. What are we willing to do and what do we want from life? And if you're thinking, well, that sounds all well and good, but it means that I'm going to have to drink less, which means it's not going to be as much fun. However much you try and dress it up otherwise I wouldn't be talking with you. I'd just be doing what I want if this wasn't a problem. I'd love to have the wine in my life. I love the taste or the rest of it. If you're thinking that, then no matter what you do, you are going to be feeling resistance and it won't feel like something you're going to want to continue with. And really, that's the bit I care about. I want you to continue with the process that we learn together. If you're feeling that level of resistance and diety and about it, sooner or later you're going to drop it. You're going to drop what I teach you, because it's not sustainable that way. So instead we get curious with this. We ask why. Why do we have this resistance? What's going on? How are we thinking about it? Now, if you've listened for me for a while, you know that I strongly believe in intention and planning. When you work with me, I teach you how to create and follow through on drink plans, and that really you have full agency over this. I will never tell you what to drink or how much. It's none of my business. And I think that's the third time I've mentioned that in this podcast. So I think I have that message over loud and clear. No, my job is to help you make the decision you want for yourself that's going to deliver what you want to get from your life, because you're the one who creates your reality. What I have learned time and time again is that the people who embrace the idea of being conscious and intentional about their drinking, the ones who go towards planning and like this level of structure, whatever that means for them, they're the ones who make the quickest progress. They're the ones who stay with it and find it easier and simpler to bring that into their life. So I want you to stay on yourself. I want you to stay curious. The first step is to learn how to make a plan and stick to it. And that is for sure easier said than done. But I do have techniques I will teach you for that if you work with me. But here's the thing. When you know you can do that, when you know you can write a plan and stick to it, then your next job is to be willing to write a plan that you like. So let me explain what I mean by that. I've seen where clients, they build up huge self-trust in themselves. They get to the point where they know that if they plan one drink, they'll have one. If they plan 3, they'll have 3, right? They are rocking it. They know that. But then a bit later, what pops up, because we have human brains, is I know I'll do this, but is that really what I want? Right? Will it be enough? We start to doubt ourselves, and then maybe they don't like that sensation. So they decide to plan more drinks than really they would ordinarily choose, or more drinks certainly than they could cope with. Now this gives them effectively an out to drink a little more and still stick to the plan. See how sneaky this is? But you don't need to do that, right? We don't need to have this way of thinking. So if this is how you find yourself going, where you're starting to intentionally plan more than you really would be choosing to, simply because you don't like how it's feeling that if you would drink less, it's time to take a step back and remember what you want for yourself, and to remind yourself that this isn't about going on a diet. This is about achieving in life what you want to achieve. This doesn't mean there will be less fun if you've planned fewer drinks, because there's no one out there telling you what you have to plan. This is all down to you. You're the one in control. You are in charge of your life. You deserve to be in charge of your life. You're in control of what you plan and how you think about it. When you have full agency over your mind, when you see what's going on up there, when you see your excuses, or when you're not taking action, then you'll have everything you need to create the most packed, wonderful life. That's when you'll end up consuming less alcohol because it's what you want, not because you have to through some self-imposed external diet mentality plan. And if what I say resonates, then reach out and do it today. Do not wait until tomorrow. You might be thinking, this sounds really good. I'll do that when I've moved house, or when I'm a bit less busy at work, or all of the things. Or when I feel ready. I hear that a lot. Now listen, you're never going to feel ready. When we're thinking about this, when we're making decisions, our brains are going to want to resist change because that feels scary. And we're going to continue to want to make the same decision again and again and again. Even if we are really uncomfortable with the results it's creating, it's going to feel a comfortable decision to make. So I want you to challenge your brain. I want you to reach out, go to 90dayslater.co and click on the book a call button. Book a call with me for tomorrow. Don't give your brain time to get confused about this. If you want to change your relationship with alcohol, I can help you. You won't regret it. And guess what? You're going to be so grateful to your past self for taking the action to lobby for yourself today. I look forward to speaking with you. If you like what you're learning in the podcast and you want to take the work further and achieve total freedom around alcohol, let's talk. I help my clients stop reaching for that first glass of wine the moment 6 p.m. rolls around and they don't miss out on life. Email me for more information on anna@90dayslater.co. And if you did enjoy the show, I'd really appreciate if you'd leave a rating and review to help others find the 90 Days Later podcast.